science. Ah, he does not believe us. God.
I can't stop you if you're willing to believe in this crap. Give this guy a call. You're better off talking to him than me. He's at the public library now if you want to catch him there. He used to be my professor back in the university.
Oh, no, I don't think that's...
Go on, I already gave him a heads up. You know I can't help you out, man.
God, man. Why doesn't he believe us? Like, 3 people told him that he saw strange things in the house, and he still doesn't believe us. He gives my arm a tap and walks off, mumbling about checking back how things are at the precinct. I don't see his face when he leaves, but I know this is his only way of helping out, despite what he doesn't voice out. Of all the places it never crossed my mind I'll end up wandering into a public library today, considering I rarely ever visited. Somehow there has always been this kind of disconnect between me and books in general. First, some of them held my attention in my youth during the brief times of the day I was left to my own with nothing to do. I went through the whole of Grant's collection as a matter of fact. Read all of them twice or thrice even, but they never did hold it for long. Most of it never even stick. Especially after I learned it's simply easier to do things myself if I want to learn stuff. It ain't in the plan in the first place. But after Ashton went through trouble to contact the professor, I can't just ignore it. That's right, that's true. Nothing but quiet greets me inside though. Not the typical mum one would associate with a library, but one akin to a hush prayer to an impending trouble. Or perhaps I'm just overthinking again. I really like to think I'm just thinking too much about this. That this is just a lack of sleep talking. Regardless, apart from a group of students murmuring in a corner somewhere, the place is free of its usual visitors. All while my footsteps echo in a manner unsettling enough to raise the hairs at the back of my neck. Much to my relief, it does not take me long to find him behind the only occupant in this side of the room. Professor Andrew Clark. I've never personally met the man, but Ash has spoken highly of him in several times. Back, he is Ash go-to guy. That's a weird expression, alright? Go-to guy when something's troubling him with a case. My steps are unsure as I approach him. At any rate, he greets me with a warm smile like a grandson he has not seen in a long time.
Ashton's friend, I take it. Zachary.
Yeah.
You'll have to forgive this old man if I don't get your name right.
Oh, no, you got it. It's Zach. Zachary Steele, Professor Clark.
He gestures at the empty seat across the table while he returns to his book. The next couple of minutes pass in relative silence as he continues to read and take notes from the pile he's accumulated on the table. Maybe I should have taken a book first before heading here. But before I can even get far into that idea, Professor clicks the book shut and sets it atop the stack next to him.
Ashton told me you were hoping to get answers from me.
Maybe.
Although I'm not quite sure what I could share, I'll do my best to help.
Of course, there are a lot of things I want to ask. How do we get out of this mess in the first among tens, hundreds of concerns in my head? But in the presence of someone I barely know, the thoughts won't easily form. He is nothing but patient, however, and with enough time to mull over, a question finally forms.
Do you believe in the paranormal, Professor?
Ooh.
It's supernatural, actually.
Supernatural? That I did not know, so it's not paranormal, it's supernatural.
Don't worry. It's a common mistake to make, but they really are two different things.
Ooh.
The other one deals with what we can't explain at the moment, while the other are things we may not have an explanation to.
I didn't know there was a difference in between the two.
Here.
places a couple of papers in front of me, the very same one he was writing on earlier. A study of Luxborn's supernatural culture in a nutshell.
A friend of mine wrote that a few years ago. He took interest in the city after reading about the stories. I have to agree with him here. Even stories dealing with things you don't see with the naked eye can be rife with culture, and this city thrives on it. Just ask the locals.
Like ghosts, for example.
Among other things. The interpretation has changed over the years, though. Various religions, for example, have their own version. It might not always be a spirit now. It could be a memory, or an imprint, an echo, so to speak. Some are born from curses even, out of great anger, hatred, or pain. There was this one story. Ah, here it is.
Another book is pulled out from the stack and placed open atop the papers while he speaks with such passion that it makes me wonder if some part of him believes this to be true. It is interesting though, even if I'm personally not a fan of such stories. And soon, hours pass without my notice.
In the end, it asked for something to be sacrificed in order to destroy whatever anchors the wraith. A sad tale, that one, but the simplest grudge can bring the ugliest, even in the kindest person, with some people none the wiser.
Alright, but what about the ghost lady in the house?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just went on.
Nah, it's good. Are you familiar with the Ermengarde mansion, though?
Yeah.
Of course, that goes without saying. Who hasn't heard of the local legend? Although, word of the mouth is, someone has already bought it.
Ah, yeah. The right couple. It was a close friend who handled that sale.
So I heard. Well, don't think the house being bought by anyone would stop us from talking about it. What is it about the mansion, then?
I just want to ask what you think of it, sir.
We're going to need more than an afternoon for that, young man. You see, it's the kind that has changed over the years, passed down from one person to the next. Sometimes, it's the Lord William who haunts the place. There are versions where it's the lady of the house.
The lady of the house. That's the one we're interested in.
But my favorite, a personal favorite, would have to be the ones that followed after the disappearance of the kind daughter.
Oh.
Well, what about these then?
There is a moment of hesitation on my part before I pull out Miss Wright's photo and lay them all in front of him. Unlike Ash though, the professor inspects each print with a great interest. It gives me some hope at least.
When were these taken?
Achievement unlocked. Need some advice, Prof. When were these taken?
Just the other day. Do you think those are the same?
Perhaps. Perhaps not. There were certainly instances when the film would pick up what the human eyes weren't able to see. But then, it could also have been human error.
I didn't edit it in any way. You have my word on that, Professor. They all just came out like that.
Then, if it is what you're thinking, I'd strongly advise against doing something reckless and further tangling with them. Accounts about them may be riveting to you, but most of it often ends in an unpleasant manner.
What about those people in the house? If there is something in there, shouldn't they know? I'm sure they're already familiar with the legends, but...
Some people might deserve it, however.
Might deserve it? What does he mean?
Deserve what, sir?
All of a sudden, the tenderness in the professor's eyes disappears, his face becoming unreadable. As though catching himself, he hastily clears his throat, gathers his book, and rises from his seat.
Professor?
I'm sorry. I just remembered something I neglected to do. You'll have to excuse me, Zachary.
What?
All right. Do you need any help with that?
Don't let my looks fool you, son. I can still carry a few hundreds. I've been doing this for years.
He doesn't want to say, so he's scared that something might happen if he says too much.
I'll see you some other time if you have any other questions.
Yep, he is definitely shaken.
Of course. It was nice knowing you, Professor.
He doesn't hear it, however. In a few short strides, he's out of the library, leaving me in every piece of this whole mess amidst the oppressive stillness. Despite the answers clean, more questions surfaced. If there is even a single way out of this, I hope we find it soon. The moon is well into the night sky by the time I make it back home. My heavy treads and the sound of traffic outside echoing in my ears, filling the empty room with some resemblance of life. Nana would scold me if she ever hears me walk like that, but after today, I really can't give a damn about everything. The mattress creaks under my weight as I unceremoniously flop down on it, and I find myself looking at the paper under my grip. An invitation and a request to cover an event. The Wright's housewarming party tomorrow evening. Oh, so that was in between the moment the Wrights bought the house and the house party. Oh, if only it were that easy, but it would give me a chance to talk to her about that thing in the house. The side, I let my hand fall to the side of the bed along with the invitation. I'll think about it tomorrow when my head ain't muddled with thoughts of a headless woman and the haunting smiles of a ghost. Belatedly, it occurs to me that the last meal I ate had been the one with Ashton, and an empty, gnawing ache makes itself known, but I can't bring myself to stand up. Today was a complete waste of time, and frankly, a disappointment. I don't like this. The lack of certainty, the disquiet, the lack of stable ground to stand on. The part where I do not know what will come tomorrow. Ever since that damn letter, everything has been thrown out of the loop. I wish everything stayed the same. Routine would have been easier to make sense of than this. Closing my eyes, I let the noise from the street below lull me to sleep. At the very least, that's the one thing that has not changed. Oh, a dream. The melody carries into the hall long before I cross the threshold. Solemn but gentle and soothing, a reminder of what home is. Pa's firm but meaningful place. Ma's wistful smiles, the warm rays filtering through the eaves at sunset, the distinct smell of wet earth and leaves after a long day's rain in our room. A room, Ma and Pa's pride and joy, a place where the place we were once promised several springs ago. Yet it won't stop.
No, wait! Come back! I'll be good this time!
Come back!
Please don't leave! Please stay!
The floorboards are cold under my feet more than it usually is. The walls more forbidding than what I'm used to. Farther and farther the road goes. Ma's singing ceased and Pa. I can't hear Pa. So it's exactly the same thing as the beginning of the chapter. Not above the raucous clanging and the deafening roar of gunshots, nor the screams replacing the comforting soft melodies. There is only blinding fear. But when the light breaks... Oh, that's different though. Her skin has already taken a sickly pale color, rotten most parts. Blood dripping from every open gash and lesion on her body. Bony hands grip Hannah's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath with a vibrant shade of scarlet. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes. A scream ripples through the air. My whole body feels distant. Every limb heavy with lead, all unable to move at will. He's looking at the roof. Something is happening right now. Not even so I can wipe the beads of sweat forming at my temple.